it's time for our featured speaker. And we know that artificial intelligence and robotic process automation have been two of the hottest topics over the last several years. We've seen how they've been brought to bear for improved increased process efficiency and improved productivity. We've seen that with ERP systems and IT service management systems most recently. The focus has been heavily on enterprise service management and customer experience. So there is a wealth of potential and incredibly compelling metrics for these types of innovative solutions. We are very privileged to have with us a visionary in the industry, Dr. Muddu Sudhakar, who is the co-founder and chief executive officer of Aisera. Muddu is a very successful entrepreneur, executive, and investor, extremely knowledgeable on the technologies, product, and go-to-market strategies for cloud, software as a service, machine learning, robotic process automation, AI, and other technologies. He has been the chief executive officer for multiple startups and is also has been in executive positions for well-known public companies such as ServiceNow, Splunk, VMware, and EMC. Muddu holds a PhD and a Master of Science degree in Computer Science from the University of California, Los Angeles, and a Bachelor of Science in Electronics and Communications Engineering from the famed Indian Institute of Technology in Madras, widely published in industry journals and conference proceedings. I thoroughly enjoyed watching several very interesting interviews on YouTube that are available, and Muddu holds more than 40 patents. Without further ado, I'd like to give a warm Central Florida welcome to Muddu Sudhakar.
Thank you, Jim. That was a very nice introduction. You said very kind words. I hope I can keep up to your expectations and your team. So with this, I want to get started, and I want this to be very interactive team, folks. So please ask us questions. And what I would like to do is I'll walk you through some of the examples and use cases that I've been seeing over the years. And I think, Jim, you're going to interject with some of the polling questions. So let me know when you want me to pause, etc. If you can give me control to present, I'll share my screen, Jim.
Okay.
Let me know when you're ready.
I'm in process of providing control. I'm just making you the host.
No worries. I think I got it, and I'm going to share the screen. So let me know, if, Jim, if you and your colleagues can see it.
Yes, I can see your screen.
All right. With this, so first is you did a very nice introduction, and I want to take usually when we do these sessions to thank. Like we are living in a very strange time. So first, I want to thank all the first responders, to everybody who helps us to do our daily lives. So from grocery workers to everybody, without them, we won't be doing our job. So thank you to all the team members and everybody outside who are helping us. So I want to get a shout out to everybody. So with this, what I want to do, what Jim and team has planned, is to talk about experience and user experience. How is user experience is going to be impacted with AI? So we usually talk about AI for either cost cutting, eliminating jobs, or is it going to do automation? It turns out that AI can be leveraged a lot to drive the experience. And all of us are experiencing at our homes, right? I mean, if you guys are not using already Alexa or Google Home, or some of us are using already from Uber Eats to all the other solutions, right? So I want to walk you through what's happening from financial trading department, right? Our 401k stock today is being traded by algorithm. There's no human traders in Wall Street anymore for the last 10 years. Same thing to add technology, from whether it's good or bad, whether Facebook is doing the right thing or wrong thing, or it's being hacked by Russians and Chinese, really doesn't matter. So it's fully algorithmic ad technology today from Google, Facebook, and Amazon. Even that we've been going through all of this, can we leverage the technology in the context of our enterprises, right? We deserve better. All of us deserve better. Or you guys deserve better too, right? So from that context, I want to show what AI exists today, how AI can revolutionize experience in enterprise. I'm going to give you some statistics from analysts like Gartner, and I'm going to share also what I'm seeing with customers. So, and feel free to at any point chime in and pose the questions, and Jim will route it to me, and I'll try to address those questions, folks. With this, one thing I want to share is, look, given the COVID is now what, more than 6-7 months, and all of us went working remote. Remote working environments are a lot of challenges. And when I started talking to CIOs, like today I talked to 2 CIOs, 2 big, large public companies. And the number one thing message across all of them is fall into these 5 categories. First is lack of self-help. No IT department has ever planned for COVID. It's like once in 100-year calamity, right? So for them not having self-help for every tools. From an experience perspective, employees are complaining that I don't have any experience with IT tools. At home, we are using Twitter. Like if you guys watched yesterday's presidential or vice presidential debate, you guys are on Twitter or posting on Facebook. We enjoy Snapchat, WhatsApp. But when you come to the offices, there is no Slack, there is no Microsoft Teams, there is no web chat. There's nothing to post. I want to put my kids to the bed, and while they're sleeping, I want to chat. There's nothing available. So the experience that we all deserve much better in enterprise. So you guys all hold the keys to your success. So demand that from your enterprise guys. So CIOs are saying they want it, and more than the CIOs, CEOs want it. Many CEOs are created their own empires. So you want to break that glass. Go to your CIO, go to your VP of IT and tell, hey, time for you to implement this, right? And similarly, help desk, HDI chapter. You guys are in Florida, you know it better than me. The wait times and call volumes have gone up. I was talking to one of the banks this week, and they can't handle 50% of call volumes right now. They're dropping it. They only do 50% of calls, phone calls. There's no call centers. Nobody is coming to within 6 feet within a building. Doesn't matter your call center is in China, India, Philippines, Texas, Florida. Nobody's attending in the same building. What is going to happen now? So the traditional IVRs, phone calls have nobody's able to attend us. Same thing with emails, right? People, I don't know about you, my email volume has gone up so much in 6 months. I can't reply to all the emails, right? And you can't throw more people at this problem. If you have a business and you have a certain business growth and you have a cost structure, raising costs will be extremely high. And this is where we have to figure out how innovation can come in hand. It's like time for us to see, can AI really provide some experience to users? Can it automate and also still give? Because I don't want a robotic experience too, right? How much are we talking about automation? We don't want automation AI to the point our experience really bad, right? So these are the challenges that consistently I'm hearing from everybody from I do probably this year I would have done like more than 25 HDI chapters across US guys, from Southern California to Utah to New England to Chicago, all the way around. We did in Texas, Houston. So I gathered a lot of requirements and consistent answers across all these things. So then if you look at the users, what are the users are asking? Users are, as I said, earlier I talked about challenges. User experience, if you do a polling with employees and consumers, they're saying that there's no remote support non-existent, right? IT departments are not designed to go 100% remote. And the experience, as you talk about, is extreme. So these are top 3 pet peeves from a user perspective. So it's consistent with the challenges that CIOs and CEOs are facing, and along with the users, if you look at that. So there's a lot of commonality there. Then if you look at what are their expectations from the users, the number one expectation from the users is they want the service to be delivered on the push of a button. Many of you guys are high school moms or elementary school moms or middle school. You are teachers. Now you have 2 jobs. Not only have to do day job, you have to know also take care of, you're the teachers also. Or maybe 3rd job, you have to take care of the families. So all of us are the now teachers now, worldwide. So that means you cannot be doing the job 8 to 5. So you should be able to deliver any service. Maybe after you put kids to bed, you'll get back to work, right? On any device. It may not be a laptop. Maybe you'll be doing it on a phone. Maybe you'll do it on an iPad, right? And you want a high degree of personalization. If you have an issue related to a Microsoft Office or a VMware or products, you want the system to know this is what your settings were, this is the problem you ran into, this is how it should be solved, right? That doesn't exist today, folks, right? And you want to do it. You don't want to wake up your family in the middle of the night, or you don't want to be distracted. You want to be able to do it. And that's the reason these products are designed for, the social media tools. It gives you the privacy. You don't even want to share. Later on, I'll talk about the HR requests, by the way, right? As you are increasingly seeing during COVID, we did a polling of how many requests are IT versus HR and what type of HR requests people want to do it. You're not comfortable talking about your HR request to a HR specialist anymore, right? Those are the, I mean, if you demand the privacy laws from a privacy person, I don't want to share my information to a HR department person. I want to open up a system and talk to get it done. So these are the things that users are expecting from the enterprise. And I call this in consumerization of enterprise has to happen. People talk about it. It's been going on, but nobody's making a bet. We can do it. Change has to happen. We are in 2020. So we have one more quarter left, guys. So my request is, if there's one thing, make the change, folks. Make an investment. Pick a solution. Push it through your glass ceiling with your leaders and leadership team, and they will make a change for you. Then let's talk about the FAANG. I mean, all of you guys are probably, some of you are daytime stock traders, some of you are doing part-time hobby traders, but look at the FAANG stock. I mean, this is like the enormous growth over the last 20 years. This is what drives Wall Street. This is what drives jobs and economy. Whether it's Google, whether it's Netflix, whether it's Amazon, it's a reality of life. We have to live with them. Whether they're fair or unfair, doesn't matter to it. But they do provide a lot of services for us. If these companies are able to do this, and we're all enjoying this, why doesn't it exist in the enterprise? Does other vendors offering these solutions like this? Does companies like ServiceNow, Salesforce, Workday, VMware? Ask yourself, put a high bar to these enterprise solutions that you're implementing it. Do they deliver this? Is that at its core, is there a core that's got cloud, AI, automation in them? Because these are all 20-year-old products. You don't want renewing those licenses without getting an experience that these vendors are offering to you in the consumer space. So here is a statistic from Gartner. So if you look at where the AI adoption is happening from an experience perspective, it turns out it's in our space, folks. It's in customer support, help desk. The number one Gartner survey, the AI is being applied, is in the area where HDA chapter is designed for. It's not in some procurement, it's not in supply chain, it's not in billing. Customer service support, IT help desk is an area where this is happening. Right? So that's important for us. So this is an area where 74% of respondents said, I want to automate using AI for experience reasons. Now, if you look at the reasons for why they want to adopt AI, right? As the title of this presentation that Jim, you designed, it's for agility and experience. Cost is not even the top two categories. People are not adopting AI it's like most misnomer in the media is, oh, if I put AI, I'll lose jobs, or I'm not going to do it for cost reasons. Yeah, cost is important, but it's a distinct third. People are applying AI because I want to offer good experience to my colleagues, my employees, my users. If I don't do it, I'll lose my business. The business will go somewhere else. And I want my business to be agile. Remember, we are going through a once in a, what you call 100-year change. A lot of business will die. Some business will go. There will be winners and losers out of COVID. So if you're not agile and fast enough, we as a companies in our organization, we won't thrive. We need to thrive, not survive. So the only way to thrive out of COVID is to make investments on this. So now let's look at where are these examples worked. So I can say it, but can I give you any proof points? Now I'm talking within last 18 months, last 12 months. I call it follow the money example, right? There are smart people that I look at and say, where's the Wall Street happening? Whether they're smart or not, this is where the money is flowing. This is where the investment dollars are going, right? If you look at it in the enterprise, Zoom went public in 12 months back, or 12 to 18 months back. Look at Zoom, guys. That is doing, it provides a new experience. We're using Zoom today on this meeting, presentation, remote office. Look at Slack. Look at Microsoft Teams. Microsoft, it's like I call them a nation state. They're worth $2 trillion. They're bigger than most countries in terms of market cap, right? Microsoft Teams and Slack have hundreds of millions of users. So right now between Zoom, Slack, and Microsoft Teams, they are changing the experience. This is a new collaboration. This is a new media communications. That's a new browser. Like in 20 years back, we used to have Netscape and Chrome and Firefox. Now the new media is these three to communicate with people. Communicate on video collaboration, audio collaboration, or exchanging messages. So now the question is, on these browsers, what can you do? That's where company like Aisera come in. We want to use these medias, these channels to see if I can connect two people, peer-to-peer. Can I connect, for example, Joe to Jim in communication? Can they both communicate? Or can Jim post messages across the people? And can they interact, etc.? Right? So experience is really driven through these channels in the enterprise now going forward. Now let's talk about where does the role of AI and automation can help in the experience, right? One is in the context of, in general, overall IT help desk and service desk customer support is the support teams. Your support team deserve better, right? So whether the support teams are level 1 people, level 2, level 3, they need a mechanism like these channels to provide some kind of AI. So can AI provide a conversational interface? I call it a dialogue interface. You want a Twitter-like or Instagram-like interface on these channels, on Zoom, Slack, and MS Team through AI. And that Gartner calls it conversational AI. It's a category, folks. It's not something, the category is happening, people are buying it. According to Gartner, I'll show you later on, 30% of organizations already have either doing a project or have implemented this. Some people call them virtual assistants, virtual agents. There's a lot of names for it. Some people call it chatbots. That's happening in real time, right? Then other thing is requests. Can you automate requests? If the requests are be around, you want to install something, I want to provision an application, or I want to put an agent in my laptop, or have a cybersecurity attack. Can you automate those requests so that you don't have to have a human do this? In terms of that, whether it's a complex or repetitive request or simple, it can be automatable. And we'll talk about some of those examples today, right? So first is about helping the support team. Second is to automate requests for all employees and users. Third is, can you now provide agents with answers to close a request also? So this is now I call autonomous car, right? Whether the cars are going to be autonomous in our lifetime, still a TBD, but the people are trying bets on it. Whether it's Tesla, Google, all those guys. So here the new service desk will be is 70 to 80% of requests will not go to support agents. So they'll be autonomously closed by AI. That's what you want. You don't want your support agent to be doing password reset or asking to install Office 365, or I have a problem with my virtual desktop. If those common, highly repetitive tasks that can be closable by AI will be automated and resolved without an agent ever touching the ticket or request. All right, now if you look at what has happened in the last 2-3 years, all this vision is good, but let's talk about the reality. One of the statistics, again, Gartner talks in that 90% of the projects in last 2 years have failed. Then this is a good statistics. If you look at this, your question should be to me is, hey Muddu, if this is failed, then why are you asking us to even try out any of these variations? The issue is that even if these guys have failed in last 90%, it turns out that all these projects have failed mainly because people are trying to build it. The answer is you don't want to build these projects. Do it yourself. This is not a hobby, folks. Of course, AI sounds cool. It's like you don't wake up and say, I want to build a robot or I want to build a car. Of course, you can be a hobbyist and go build a car on the side, but that's not for your business to do it. You need to buy it. If you try to build it, you'll cost company and it can cost your job too. I've talked to so many people who went down this path. They took 9 to 12 months. They burned millions of dollars. At the end, they didn't have anything. It costed some CIOs their jobs too. So this is not a for the faint heart or for an area to take a bet. Similarly, don't take solutions which are bad AI, right? There's a good AI and bad AI. Life has both good and bad. Like you have good news and a fake news. It's up to us to decide what is good and what's bad in your organizations, right? Now, if you agree that you don't want to build your chatbot, where do you invest in these current AI solutions? There are plenty good solutions out there. Do a proof of concept, have vendors do a demo to you, make a bet, right? So key is continue to push for buy solutions and look for accuracy of results. Have them show you, put a contract saying that, hey, if you can deflect more than 30, 40, 50% of my request, then I'll buy your product. Or have them educate you on how AI and chatbots will work, right? Just because you're in a hurry and your management is asking you to implement, don't run into a wall by implementing or building chatbots for team. So the conclusion is what used to be called chatbot, Gartner is rebirthing them as chatbot 2.0 is called conversational AI. And that's where I'm going to spend. That's like providing a dialogue which are friendly, natural language processing using AI from NLP. So it should understand your meaning. It should understand the intent you're asking your question, all of that. It's not a rule-based system. That's what you got from vendors like IBM Watson to IPsoft. There are a whole bunch of vendors, right? All the vendors would want to do this to you for many reasons, and I'll walk you through that. So if you look at it, given that they all fail, what is the reaction? You would think that most of them will not do those projects again, right? That's intuitive, but it's a counterintuitive what's happening in the market. Even though all those 90% of the projects have failed, all of them still want to implement. Why? Because their CEOs are saying there's a hope and value through AI. I don't want to give up. Yes, I started with a bad project, bad AI, or a bad building. Just because I made a mistake one time does not mean I'm ready to abandon. It's like you bought a bad car. Does not mean that you're going to not own a car. You may sell that car in the secondary market, buy another car. So this is very important. The statistics from Gartner is what they have received from their Gartner inquiries is 100% of those failed projects called Gartner and said, I'm still implementing it. I'm still looking for another solution. That's a very good statistic, guys. Now let's talk about various conversational AI platforms that are available out there. This is very interesting. So one is, it turns out that if you implement like what traditional chatbot, the row number 2, I call it supervised guided flows. If you know what your users are going to ask, you are the god. You know it. You can write the rule and say, if the user asks for VMware View, do this. If it is for Citrix, do this. If he's asking about Microsoft SharePoint, do this. If you can think of all the flows possible, you can implement question answer system. It's like Google thinking about every possible request people are going to ask in google.com and provide an article. And search engines don't exist. So that guided flow concept of chatbots doesn't work. And this is what your vendors are offering to you from ServiceNow, Salesforce, everybody. They're all nothing but a supervised guided flows. That's not going to scale. What needs to happen is unsupervised conversational AI solutions, where I don't know it's a long tail. You cannot imagine what the user is going to ask. Still, the system should be smart enough to understand what the question the user is asking and able to extract the meaning and provide the right resolution. And the resolution could be a knowledge, it could be a workflow, it could be an action, it should be a task resolution, it could be checking with your manager before I approve it. So you need to understand the meaning, the role, the context, and the behavior of user. So that area is called unsupervised natural language processing. An example is like in the context of a kid, I call it, if you have a kid, you can be a tiger dad or a mom and train the kid heck of it. Or let the kid learn on its own. He's going to make mistakes, but system is going to learn. So unsupervised AI with deep learning is, give me your knowledge, give me your historical ticket, I'm going to learn in your environment. A kid is born, he's going to make mistakes, but he's going to learn faster. If you want to reduce the training of the kid and you want to teach him, sure, you can still teach on top of that. But what you don't want to is become and teach him and write his own exam. That's a supervised guided flow. It's like you're going with the kid to the exam room and writing for your kid. I don't think any school will allow that. It's like somebody else writing your own SAT exam. I wish I can do that to my kids, right? So that's a supervised guided flow. That model doesn't work, guys. Then other thing that's happening is cognitive AI search. If you guys go online and read about it, what used to be search is becoming cognitive and AI. They're all marrying together. Can the search request be searched and understand what the users are looking for so that I can learn and get my understanding better? Eventually, if I don't understand it, you need always an escalation path, which is I want to talk to a live human being. I want to be able to open up a ticket. That should be an exception. So if you follow the top 3 things, the number of times a request will become a ticket will be less than 10-20%. There will be always something AI cannot be able to solve, but that should be an exception or escalation. That should not be the norm. But if you do this, what's going to happen? That means your number of tickets that are going to help desk will drop by 50, 60, 70%. Why is it that is good for you? Is bad for the vendors. Any ITSM vendor does not want to do that. So if you are asking ITSM vendors to show you this, he is not going to give you the best solution, guys. Come on, it's a conflict of interest. It's like going to the Ford Motor and say, hey, Ford and General Motors, give me an electric car. They're not going to give you an electric car. They'll sell you 10 million gasoline cars. Get over that, right? It's a conflict of interest. They'll give you all the reasons why batteries are bad, technology is bad. They're going to give you all the crap. Same thing, all the ITSM vendors are going to give the crap. They're not going to be open. So just be real. I mean, asking a vendor saying I want an RFP project is futile. You're not going to get an answer from them. And I came from one of those vendors. So I know that I'm giving you from my heart. So now if you put that in perspective, remember I talked about long exponential tail. The supervisor, and we did some analysis across hundreds of customers now. I've been doing this since 2016 on this space, right? Since my early days of ServiceNow and Splunk. So if you look at it, the chatbots or the supervised guided flows can only do 10, 20%. I call it 10, but let's make it 20% if you want. But 80 to 90% of the requests that goes out there that your common user is going to ask, nobody can predict that. Like your English in Florida could be different. Central Florida could be different from East Coast. In New Jersey, people may say differently. So how many different ways people can ask a question, you cannot control that. You may use acronyms, verbiage, synonyms. So there's no way a guided flow supervised approach will work. You have to go with unsupervised conversational AI or unsupervised NLP. If the vendors do not do this thing, walk away. That's what I mean by the bad AI. If somebody does not have its score, that's your like check mark. See you next year when you get that. Ask them to walk away, right? So now let's giving this as a perspective. Good news is this is an evolution, folks. So it's never stops, right? Like in technology, great thing is technology is going to get. This may take another 20 years, may take another 10 years, right? Always is going to get better. It started in 2015 with first generation when we saw rule-based. Then 2018 came with this supervised guided flows that I'm talking about. Now we are in a new area, 2020. For 2 years from now, you may get some other technology. Great thing about cloud and AI is they're inventing so much happening. I call this is the Moore's law, the famous Moore's law of Intel founder, right? The things will change every 18 months, 2 years. And it should, right? You should get better pricing, you should reduce costs, you get better experience. So technology will work for you from this. So we are now in the third generation current AI systems. So look for these solutions if you want to do anything to improve the experience. So just to make it real, what are we talking about expense? So sometimes people ask me in the enterprise, so what type of requests people can handle it? I just want to give you some examples here. I kind of put it as a word cloud, right? So here's an example. People might come and say, I want to onboard an employee, right? Yeah, so onboarding an employee could be a series of things you want to do. Or somebody might say, I am a Google enterprise user. I want to access to Google Drive or Google Sheets, or I want to have a Gmail access, or my VPN connection is not working. All right. Or I want to install Zoom in my laptop into my Outlook. I have my calendar issues, or I'm unable to share my drive, or things like, so it could be any of these things that people can imagine that could be a common request. And it won't be just a word. Somebody might write a lengthy sentence. It's like Twitter. You are allowed to write 100 characters, 200 characters. You can write a lengthy, you can be a verbose person, or you can write a phrase. You can type 2 words. System should be able to read that and understand what the user is. And this can come through mobile phones. By the way, this cannot be just somebody typing and sending an email. It could be through phone as well, right? Here is an example of HR request, for example. Like if somebody may want to talk about their maternity leave, I don't want to go talk to a HR person for that, right? This is where the privacy, I may want to talk about my 401k issues. So it could be across the board, a lot of things that can happen here, folks, right? So here is an example of things related to my PTO or employee training, or I have some things about medical related issues I want to talk. You need to provide a HR channel for people to ask these questions with the privacy. They know that they're talking to a system or talking to an employee. Maybe I can get my most of the requests done without talking to any person. So I'm just pausing here. Jim, do you want to do a quick poll here, or how are we doing? I think you're muted, Jim.
Yes, now is a good time for poll. Now, I did transfer host capability to you. Do you have a poll button on your controls?
You know, that's a good question. Yes, I do.
Excellent.
Launch poll. Let me know how long I should keep it on for the team.
Okay.
It's 1 minute, folks. So should I give under 30 seconds, Jim?
Yes, please. I am,
Stop it now.
I'm not on the submit button for the poll. It seems to be not responding.
Okay.
I'm not sure why. Maybe Christina would have some insights.
Hey, Jim. Yeah, from the last HDI webinar, sometimes it sticks. So sometimes it won't work for people. So unfortunately, I don't know why the reason for that, but hopefully everybody got what they can in. But yeah, that's something weird with Zoom and the polling.
So that's, sorry folks, if Zoom has an issue, we should, Krishna, we will talk to the Zoom people and open this request. Yep. So I'm going to end the poll, folks, and I'll continue, but please send your questions. Jim will ask these questions. I want to reserve time for that. All right.
Okay.
So, and we will probably, Christina and Jim will probably share these results also so you get a feel for what's going on. Okay, I'm going to stop this. If you're okay, Jim. All right. So with this, let me continue to the next topic. So how does these systems will work? So I want to give you a flavor. So far we talked about, I want to get into more deployment details of it, right? So here's an example. Again, I'm obviously speaking for Aisera. I represent Aisera, but solution will be similar from other vendors. And hopefully you can decide what you're looking for in this. So the best approach to do these type of systems is deploy a layer like Aisera. I call this one AI layer or conversational AI layer or AI service desk layer on top of existing enterprise systems and apps. That could be ITSM systems, it could be HR systems like Workday or ServiceNow, Salesforce, customer service systems. So idea is to provide front-end these systems because you don't want to throw away what you have invested already. You want the best of the breed. So the beauty of it is it's not like you want to rip up and replace. You made a decision, you already have a system. So the question is, what can you do seamlessly to insert yourself? And then the users are coming and talking using the favorite channels that we talked about, like Zoom, like Microsoft Teams, like Slack, or it could be phone call too, so that the Aisera will intercept those requests. I call them requests as a service and provide the answers. At the back end, it will act as a performing all the tasks, task as a service, right? So that's how you should view this, the solution deployment, how it looks like. Now, if you, same thing can be done for phone call. A lot of people think that chat solutions are only for somebody typing in. Not true, team. There are people out there where we have worked with where the phone call can come. It could be 1-800 HDI chapter of Florida, for example, right? Or whatever the company you're in. The phone call can be it's no longer like you press 1 for this, 2 for this. These IVRs are very intelligent. So output of IVR will come to Aisera. And so the voice gets turned into text and Aisera will respond to the text. So it's not pre-programmed. So based on what you say, system will look up what the right answers and will serve them. Right? So imagine an intelligent call center solution like this. That changes the whole experience. So these areas called conversational IVRs are applying common AI for IVR systems or call centers. Right? So it's phone and as well as the other mechanisms. So if you look at it on a mobile phone, how it looks like. So here is an example. You could be on your mobile phone. Remember I talked about the experience. And you could be typing like you're typing through your in your Twitter or Snapchat. You can ask a question. So first, your system should be able to understand your sentiment, intent, the phrase, what it's doing. Then it should be able to also has its own domain and ontology. It has to have its dictionary. Ontology is like a vocabulary, right? It needs to understand what you're asking. It should be able to context switch. Like you're talking about something and change my topic to something else and come back. Can I continue that? The intent could be disambiguation needs to happen, right? When you use the word certain things, in English language, intents can so many things. Is it smart enough to understand natural language to differentiate that? Can you engage the users? Like if you ask a vague question, can it smart enough to rephrase the question and say, is this what you mean? Or are you looking for this? Are people looking for this or looking for other things? This is how you're looking at on Google and today. When you go to Amazon Prime, they're telling you what to buy, who is buying what. So it opens up new things for you who are looking for what, right? And at any point, it should have an exceptional handling. Always the experience should be, if the user does not want to interact and say, I want to really talk to a live agent and I want to open up a request, you should provide that option, right? So that way you're not creating a frustrated experience. This is a good example of some of the features, but I want to tell you how people are experiencing this from a mobile phone and these interactions. So what is the key criteria for this? First is, do you need guided flows? Sure, keep the guided flows as they are. If you have something, if you know your user experience, but you must have unsupervised. I'll talk about, you also need something called a common RPA for task automation. You also need cognitive AI experience, right? And the AI has to be on the fly. It should not take months to deploy these solutions. There's no consulting services. It's not like, oh, I'm going to build a house in next 9 months or 12 months. If these solutions are not up and running within few days or a week, there's something is wrong. That's why I call this one day zero AI. That's very important, guys. Demand that solutions, guys. AI should be on the fly. It should learn on your knowledge base, on your tickets. It's not learning on some other customer data set. So this is like kind of a short list of categories if you are planning an RFP, looking for the solutions, right? Now let me tell you what you should not do. So far I tell what is, it's very important to tell you what not to do. One thing is, there's a misnomer that to get started, you need to have a historical data. It's like you buying a car and say, I need to train the car with the roads. No, it's the job of Tesla and Google to train the car on the maps. If you have your data sets, sure, but it's not mandatory. They're public sources of the data. If it's about Microsoft already has their data sets available. Similarly, to buy this solution, you don't need to hire data scientists. It's like you buy an autonomous car and say, I want to buy a race car driver with it. Good luck. No race car driver, you will join us, right? So you don't hire a data scientist to use these solutions. So this again, if it is for somebody to try it and build, if you're trying to build, that's different. If you're buying, make sure that you don't need to buy experts with this. Similarly, you don't need to sit and train. That's your choice. If you want to be a tiger mom and a dad, all the great power to you, right? It's not required. Similarly, don't take 8 to 9 months or 12 months to deploy it. So I kind of want to give you things that should not be done. Similarly, a lot of people think data needs to be prepped. No, give the raw data set, guys. Don't modify it. Don't create a fake news. The more you prep the data, you're training the system wrongly. Give the facts. Just give me the raw knowledge, raw ticket, raw cases. System should learn on its own. So what this means to IT and HR service desk. Great thing is there is a transformation going on. COVID is going to change service desk as we know going forward, right? And many customers have already started doing these projects in the ITSM space. I want to give you the statistics from Gartner. Last year, only 10% have tried to do this. This year, even though with COVID, 30% of the customers in the enterprise space, in Global 5000, either have implemented or implementing these solutions or started this. It's going to accelerate, guys. Like I've seen this movie. So just watch in a couple of years, you will reach 70, 80%. It's going to happen. So it's only by kicking the can down the street, you're just delaying it. The longer you delay it, the longer it takes your learning curve in your own company. We all are humans. We will make mistakes. My request to you is get started. Now within the IT, remember I talked about the statistic I want to share. Before COVID to during the COVID, it turns out that between IT and HR, the number of requests in last 6 months, there are more HR requests than IT requests in many organizations. These across enterprise. Because what happened is early days of COVID, people like, oh, I'm working from remote. I don't know how to connect to VPN. How do I do this? Still IT requests, a lot of it. During COVID, it's now became from IT to HR. Like I have my HR issues. I have my family issues. How do I work 2 jobs? When do I attend these meetings? Right? So HR requests have gone up substantially. So IT and HR always go together. And there could be a separate help desk, but it's all IT and HR requests as a group kind of want to give the view. Now within the request, if you look at it, remember I talked about actions and tasks and information. If you look at all your tickets, all your cases historically, again, mileage may vary for every company. I'm giving you the statistics across the board. 30-40% of them are information only. Majority of them are tasks, actions, workflows, where people want to do something about it. And this is what I've analyzed across millions of tickets, across hundreds of customers. Now, given this, what type of platform you want to select? Remember, I talked about do's and don'ts, right? One thing is when it comes to AI, it has to be it cannot be a black box. It should be first of all out of the box, cannot be black box, it should be transparent. If you are a regulated industry, whether you're financial, whether you're healthcare, pharmaceutical, or whether you're insurance industry, every industry has their own regulations. So any solution you do it, make sure that there's no black box. Some people tell you, I'll sell you a managed service, I'll take care of all your problems. Don't buy for that, guys. That's like putting a human being being like a crank and shaft. He's a human sitting as an AI typing your answers. Don't buy that. That's their managed service. They may have an employee sitting in some location and dying. You want a fully transparent algorithmic solution, right? Yeah. If you're in a regular industry. So if somebody says, I'll sell you a managed service, I'll take care of all your problems, there's something is wrong. It's like autonomous car guys are telling you like, I'll sell you a car, but I'll drive the car for you. No, the car should be driving and you'll be sitting in the car, right? This whole idea of managed service, I'll take care of your problems, it's old school. You want a self-service. Uber is not selling a managed service. Alexa is not selling you that. Google Home is not selling you that. They're giving you an app, you can do it. It's self-service. Don't confuse self-service with being a black box and managed service, etc. Survival guide tips. So given all these things, what are the must-have? So if you look at your top ticket drivers, as you drill through it, the number one category of your requests tend to be in the area of application and service provisioning, usually by volume. Second is in cybersecurity. Third is in end user services, desktop services, and fourth is procurement, etc. So pick the category that you want to automate. You don't need to do everything. You might say, you know what, on day one to get started, I want to focus on provisioning and application requests for my users, or I want to do desktop service requests, or I want to do cybersecurity request automation. Pick one area, apply the solution, go deep. If you want to do more than one, it's great, but at least start with one. This kind of tells you areas where you want to focus on, what gives you the biggest bang for the buck in terms of return on investment. Now, so always people ask me, what's the stack I'm recommending, right? I'm a very prescriptive guy. As you can hear me, I'm going to give you a prescriptive, whether you take my prescription or somebody else, it's your thought. Each of you guys can decide. Here is a stack, right? Ticketing system. There are many ticketing systems. If you already have any of those, great. You must have a ticketing system. You must have a good knowledge base. Could be SharePoint, it could be Confluence, could be G Drive, could be OneDrive. It's up to you. Put data in some place, in some knowledge base, right? It could be web content. Use one of the browsers, channels. You have Slack, Microsoft Teams, or phone, whichever, or Zoom chat, whichever you like. Then deploy. And obviously, I'm representing Aisera. I'm saying that get common AI solutions from Aisera or other vendors. This is the tech stack of the future. This is what people call it AISM. Gartner actually is a category now. It's no longer called ITSM. It's called AI Service Management. The old ITSM for last 30 years is changing, guys. IT is changing with AI. It's like AD and BC. 2020 is like going back to zero. It's before Christ versus AD. AD BC is the new thing. AISM is going to represent that. So why Aisera then? Some people say, hey, I know you're mentioning Aisera, and why Aisera now? Remember, what we specialize in unsupervised NLP. This is our patented technology. What I was talking about earlier. It's AI on the fly. There's no data prep required, no manual annotations required, there's no manual involvement. You point to me the data source, whether it's ServiceNow, Salesforce, Zendesk, BMC, CA, Sharewell, right? Any knowledge base. And system should be deployed, available as a multi-tenant service, same-day solution. It comes with its own ontology, vocabulary. It has its own AI learning in an automated AI learning continuous manner. It's a universal service. The data format doesn't matter to us. Give any data set you want, right? So any ticketing data, any knowledge, multiple domains. It could be IT, HR. Some people say sales ops, finance, legal. So those are three things that I kind of differentiates us is I call it day zero AI on the fly, universal service data. That's what we position ourselves, our differentiators. And the value prop at the end of the day is there has to be, say, remember I talked about, it's not always about the cost. Is it improving the experience to your users? Are users getting self-service? How do you want to quantify that? Are you able to reduce your costs involved if required? Can you improve the productivity? Is it improving your CSI? The qualitative, quantitative benefits, you have to evaluate it, but there is value there. You have to create an ROI, and most solutions provide you this solution. Finally, in conclusion, why invest in common AI as this solution is, first you need to figure out, is this important to drive your revenue or business? Is it to keep your lights on? Is it to grow your business? Is it going to create a new business model using this? Are you going to sell new services, new customer offerings? Or is it going to grow your customer base? Are you going to retain? There has to be a higher level goal that your CEO or your leaders are going to adopt for you, right? If it doesn't fit into that, you should not do it, obviously. So find out what is the top 3 drivers that are for your next year, this year, and leverage that in the context of conversational AI. I want to round out with, is there an analogy in the industry? Folks, here's an analogy. This technology exists already. From Instagram, that you guys are using it, your kids and most millennials are using it. Netflix, all of us are using it to watch movies from a movie recommendation. Tesla cars, right? Alexa, right? Voice services. These 4 brands have existed for 4 years. So this technology is easily doable in your technology, in your offices, in your enterprise. Right? So I'm going to wrap up, Jim, with this. Thanks for having me. Hope it was useful. And if you need to reach us, there are a few demos we will offer you. And here is a place to reach Aisera.
Thank you so much, Muddu. Very informative presentation. For additional information, should attendees reach out to anyone specifically? I believe Eric Wagner is the account executive for Florida. I certainly can put whoever wants to get in touch with you and Eric. If someone sends me an email, I'll share his contact information. But any other next steps, Muddu?
No, I think, first of all, thank you. These are more educational sessions, Jim. So if anybody wants to reach out, great, please reach out to our team. But my goal is to make sure that I hit somebody's nerve and a chain of thought so that you can do something different and change as you enter 2021.
Great. Thank you again for a very informative and thought-provoking presentation. A lot of potential benefits from this type of solution. We're in the last minute and a half before wrap up. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask Muddu regarding anything that's been presented?
I think there may be some questions I see. I don't know how to present and see. If you have it, Jim, if you ask me, I'm happy to answer.
Okay. I'm not seeing anything in chat. Joe, I don't think I see anything in chat. Okay.
Nope, I don't see questions in chat at all, guys. So, but if you guys do have questions, you can reach out to Jim, myself. We can directly help facilitate, or even Sue, we can help facilitate getting those over to Muddu as well.
Okay, here's a question. What is the average time for deployment for the Aisera solution, and how long does it take to start receiving value?
Yeah, both good questions. So what we have seen across the board is from day one, remember I said day one, so it's a multi-tenant service. So we create the tenant on same day, few hours. Then if you connect to your ticketing system and knowledge, depending on the number of documents you have and number of tickets, it make it available on same day, day one, day two. Most deployments happen in less than a week, 2 weeks, guys. So we have got like a large pharmaceutical Fortune 50 company based in both coasts in less than 2 weeks during COVID, right? That's just an example, right? This is full deployment in production in less than 2 weeks. Now, in terms of value, remember on day one, you should start seeing anywhere between 30–40% of tickets to be deflected requests. So some people have put in the bar as high as 50%. So it's not 10%. So your requirement is on day one, you should see 30–40% of requests that goes to help desk should be solved by these solutions. And that's what we are seeing it. And right now we put it on our webpage around the average is running, and it continues to increase. Once you start from 30, 40, in 6 months or a year, it should reach 60, 70%. So like I'll give you brands like McAfee is a good example. McAfee, and then other ones is like 8x8. There are a whole bunch of other customers that we have, and those people are driving anywhere between 60, 70% of their tickets are resolved automatically.
I mean, that is awesome and transformative. Incredible metrics. We're a couple minutes past 1:30. I just want to thank everybody for joining our HDI web conference today. I hope it was a value for you. I apologize for anybody that was delayed in being able to join. The presentation I delivered will be posted on the hdicfl.com website in the next couple of hours. And have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Look forward to getting together at our next event, which would be November 19th with Julie Moore. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful afternoon.